can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free.
Look at this crew. Kratz, are you excited about this group?
I mean, this is a 4-box. This is a 4-box from heaven here. This is such a gift for me on a Friday.
Wow. I mean, obviously, we're pumped to have Trevor looking great, but I do want to start with the man who was the voice or one of the voices of the Little League World Series. And Todd Father is back in the mix after a little month hanging with the Little Leaguers. And, you know, we happen to have the champs nearby. I think if I shout out the window right now, they might hear me. But how you doing, dude? Awesome job on the call with the whole deal there.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. It was a blast, dude. I mean, that's my third year doing it. You know, you see these youngsters coming in, they're like little professionals. They got the moves, they can dance, they talk, they sing, and then they play a little game of baseball, man. It brings you back to life a little bit. A lot of good competition. You get to meet some, you know, people that you never expect from all walks of life. I became real close with the Taiwan team from Taipei. They gave me love all the time. Some kid told me since I took a picture with him, it's good luck. So we had to take a picture before every game. And we did it, but at the end they lost in the finals on a little mistake. But it was overall, it was A+, man. Working with, you know, some of the best to do it with, you know, guys like Tim Kirchin and Carl Ravitch, Mike Monaco, and it's just a really good group and a really good 2.5 weeks for sure.
Yeah, you guys crushed it. It's a fun time. It's just an entertaining watch. Trevor, great to see you too. I don't know if you caught any Little League World Series, but you were also hardcore deep in some StatCast broadcasts that we were listening to too, which, you know, I'm a nerd, so I was all about it. How'd that go, dude?
It was a blast. I wasn't able to watch as much as I would have liked of the Little League World Series, but the StatCast broadcast was a great time. We got to kind of wing it, be a part of something that we tried a bunch of new stuff, and some stuff landed, some stuff didn't, but it was a good experience, a lot of fun.
I'm gonna stop you there. You did not wing it, okay? The StatCast broadcast is the opposite of winging it. You guys are super prepared. You guys have tons of research and notes.
Over prepared.
I got to give credit to KB, Kevin Brown, and Mike Petriello, man. Those guys are. I thought I could find stuff. These guys were just killing me. Like the stuff they knew. It was Nerd Central in there. But like if I had a question, like I'd be like, Mike, you know this, and within 10 seconds he could find the answer. So it's nice having a human computer next to you for sure.
You showed off your notebook too, right?
Yeah, I had my notebook out. They printed it out for me. They printed me out like 130 pages of scouting report. I'm like, you know, guys, I look at like 5 of these pages, but it looks good. I look like I know a lot, but like, yeah, it's I don't print out the textbook every time.
That's where you show the wife, you're like, hey, look how much work I'm doing. You know, I'm not just sitting on my rear end right now. You know.
Yeah, stop complaining about it. I work really hard.
Todd Father, imagine if for Little League World Series they dumped like 130 pages of notes on your desk.
I had more, if you want the truth.
No way.
Oh, the stack was this high, but because they go through everything, you know, their likes, what they like to eat, the food, the coaching staff, and every player has their own page. So I'm telling you, my notebook was like this big. It's every year, and I'm like, oh, I don't go through everything, but you're sitting there for a couple hours trying to get some tidbits and some nuggets and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it's probably close to 200 pages, at least 200 pages of stuff.
Wow. Yeah, because there's so many teams, so many players. And I forgot when I did like high school All-American type of games and you don't have that much info besides some really basic scouting reports, we would have them fill out surveys. So we would find out more about the players. So that's a good call. All right. Well, good stuff, guys. Great to have you back. Let's dive into the last night action and charge the damn mound.
Charging the mound.
Kratz, you get to lead off. Let's give you a little time. Fighting Phil's coming back with a 5-4 dub over the sizzling Atlanta Braves. Did you see that coming? And was everybody talking about the Brandon Marsh, Charlie Morton, Aaron Bummer decision?
They were talking about it, but here in Philly, it was like the ultimate like roller coaster ride of a Phillies fan. Like the game, you could even hear it on the telecast, like Kruk and those guys, T-Mac stays very positive, but they go to like an in-game guy that's across the street, and it's like, here it is again. This team just can't do anything, waiting for a home run. And then they hit the home run, and they're like, this team only hits home runs. How are they ever going to be able to battle? I thought Morton did a great job last night. He shouldn't have been in there. Exactly like you said. He should not have been in there. Marsh wouldn't even have gotten the at-bat. Yeah, he's hitting like 200 against lefties. He's got like 19 at-bats or something. I know that's not right, but he does not play against lefties. He hasn't started against a lefty since May 5th, I think. Cinco de Mayo.
I like the comment that Snedeker said there. I like Charlie's breaker ball on him. He popped him up, and the wind blew it out. You know, I think a little anger, a little bitterness there, maybe a little bit, like that kind of stuff. I was laughing my butt off, man. You know, hey, it is what it is. That's wind blew it out, dude. Let's go. Next question, probably.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know about this, but all of the home runs that Trevor gave up in his career were actually just pop-ups, and the wind blew them out too, right?
Wind blown, yeah, for sure.
That is very incorrect.
What would you do if you were running the ship there? Would you have made that move? And also, I mean, we do have to keep in mind decisions in the playoffs are not the same as regular season decisions. I know these games are important, but it is not the same. You do let your starter eat a little bit more in the regular season. I think in the playoffs, he probably would have made that move.
Yeah, most likely. I mean, it's one of those, you know, there's not many decisions you can make there as clear platoon splits as that would have been, right? So bringing a lefty, and I know that we've gotten away from trying to like match up every single time, but like that one was just, it's very clear. The Phillies know he can't hit lefties. That's right, he doesn't hit lefties, so just let him try to hit a lefty. But I understand, you know, they were just really worried about Schwarber listening to Snicker talk, right? Like they were just like, it sounded like they were tunnel visioned on him a little bit and kind of skipping forward, and you can't do that. So, but you know, and the way Charlie reacted, that's how I would have reacted too. That was a Philly homer, but it's a homer, man. It still counts for 3. So it's a hindsight 2020 in that situation. But again, I think better safe than sorry, and just bring in Bummer, who throws just a 96 mile an hour bowling ball lefty sinker. Like the chances of him giving up at a homer to Marsh are just about 0. So I mean, yeah, live and learn, I guess.
Yeah, and you sit there. If you want to start watching, like for the last month here, you want to start watching teams that are going to win in the postseason, watch these situations in games. Because exactly like you said, you're not going to – it's not a playoff matchup. You're not going to leave Charlie Morton in to face Brandon Marsh. They're going to make him beat a lefty or bring in your righty off the bench. This is why some teams excel in the postseason. This is why some teams fail in the postseason, because – they're used to getting big hits off of the dude that they bring in, because everybody that's coming in that situation is the absolute cheese. It's the best pitchers pitching all the time. You have to wear them down. You have to figure out how to get that knock in the big situation. You're rarely going to get to see Charlie Morton in the 6th, especially with 2 runners on.
Yeah, and to kind of like button this whole thing up, he's a veteran guy, man. You want to give him as much as that leash as possible. And he's been there before. So, like you said, if I knew he's going to hit a home run, yeah, of course. But you give him that chance, and then, all right, well, we remember that for the playoffs. If they make it in, of course.
A couple other weird notes here. First off, Christopher Sanchez doesn't give up homers, and he gave up 2 to Matt Olson. I mean, I think it says just as much about the way that Matt Olson's swinging the bat now. I mean, he's been a streaky player in the league for a while, and I've been continuing to back the Atlanta Braves. This game doesn't change any of that for me. I mean, they were in control. One move probably changes things for them. So I just think this team is flying under the radar, if that makes sense, just based on, picking up guys like Ramon Laureano, Whit Merrifield. Who else got cut that they picked up who's starting every day? Gio Urshela's playing a lot. They are mixing and matching. I mean, Soler was acquired at the trade deadline. There's a lot of guys that are here that were not expected to be here at this point in the season, and I still think they're going to be a pain to deal with in the playoffs. All right, so the Braves fall. That gives the Phillies a little more separation in the division. And now you get to start talking about the Mets going after them again. It's like a seesaw. You're going into this series, they're like, well, if they just totally handle them, maybe they can catch Philadelphia. Or now, Trevor, you can look at the other end and say, well, the Mets won yesterday. They had a nice bounce back win with Edwin Diaz getting right back on the mound and closing out the game. And you're like, can the Mets catch the Braves?
Well, they're playing the White Sox. So
Boom.
I would say if there was a chance, it's now. What did it say? 37. They've lost 37 of their last 41 games. That is insane to think about. I can't even fathom being in a clubhouse like that. But we hear this a lot. This is a big Mets test because it's these type of games. The game's like, hey, just go take care of business and then move on. Is where the stumbling has been, and where a lot of the fans will say, whenever they need to go get the job done against a team like this, they don't quite get it done against a team like this. So I really hope in that clubhouse, and I know the leaders in there are, but everyone else is just really focused on the next few games coming up to put themselves in position to make a move on the Braves, because they still have a big matchup coming up too. So they got to take care of business in Chicago. Got to go. Don't go. Give up a game or two just because you're not paying attention or taking them seriously, because it's the big leagues. Even if they've lost 100 of the last 105 games, you don't want to be win 6 and 7. You don't want that.
You want to know something funny about this whole thing? My wife doesn't really follow baseball as much, but it's bad when my wife, first thing she says to me, we go on her phone or whatever. She's like, good morning, blah, blah. She goes, do you know the White Sox? And she gave me the record. She goes, that's really bad. I'm like, honey, I said that for you to say that, because you don't follow it as much as the other woman that loves baseball, and it is what it. I said, what a way to start the morning. I said, that's great. Yeah, it's just. And I told her, I said, listen, there's nothing worse than going to a stadium and can't wait for football to start, and that's basically what the White Sox are right now. And they, you guys talked about it yesterday, and yeah, enough about that. But yeah, the Mets need to sweep. It is what it is, and that little pressure can cause some to break and others to break records at the end of the day. So what will they do? Are they going to be like the same old, just like the Yankees should have beat the Nationals, should have actually swept them if you want the truth? The guys like, oh well, baseball's hard, you can't win them all. Those are teams you have to find ways to beat, and you have to beat them not even convincingly, just win those games.
Yeah, sweep. I mean, it's the worst team ever. You need to sweep the worst team ever if you want to make the playoffs. You have to treat it like a playoff game. You're facing the least talented team on the planet right now in Major League Baseball of the 30, okay? And you're the Mets and you're trying to make the playoffs. Your opponent that you're trying to chase is taking on one of the best teams. This is the exact time to strike. So, and they did well. I mean, they handled the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are shorthanded for sure right now, but they're a good team. They're missing 3 out of their 4 best position players, but props to Jose Iglesias. That's been a big pickup. He's 9 for 18 with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. That's good. Decent road trip for them to handle the Diamondbacks and the Padres, kind of stay afloat. All right. Ken Rosenthal, FT Senior Insider. Next up, a lot to get to as usual with Ken. And actually, he spoke to Francisco Lindor, a really good Q&A. So we'll ask him about it next on FT. All right, so Kratz, Todd Father and Trevor have been out for a minute, so we got to get them caught up on some ads. So let's start with our sponsor thesis right now. Since you're leading the charge on nootropics, would you like to let everyone know which piece of the puzzle you're on right now of the 4 after taking your 3-minute quiz?
I'd explain it to Todd and Trevor, but they wouldn't get it because I'm just on another level. I'm on another level taking these pills. Telling you boys, when this comes in the mail to you, you're going to be like, this is a joke. This isn't a real thing. Like, this stuff is legit. It is. I'm on Clarity right now. It's my 3rd of the 4th packet. So this week, the rest of Clarity. My Motivation box and my Clarity box are awesome. They're these supplement pills, all natural pills that we get that are, and I'm like, it just gives me like, it's almost like a shot of caffeine without the jitterness, without the like drop when you don't have it. It just like sustains me throughout the whole day.
Yeah, so you
Wow.
can maintain emotional well-being, be present in every situation. Todd Father's impressed. Do you want me to bring you over some when I come there next week?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll try anything. I need as much focus as possible. So and
There is a
and a
focus
little
box.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
and a little kick. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, energy level for sure. See, everyone's in different parts of life right now. Trevor's got baby on the way, and what are we at this point? What's the due date ish?
yeah, we're about 3.5 weeks out. So
Woo! We're 3.5 weeks out.
give
All
me
right.
some focus. Thank you.
Focus and energy for you. Todd
Okay.
Father's got the little kiddos. Kratz's are a little older. Mine don't exist at the moment. So take the free 3-minute quiz to find out what your brain needs. Take thesis.com. Use code FOUL, F-O-U-L, to save $60 on your first subscription order when you sign up for Thesis. That's $60 off your first order at TAKETHESIS.com with promo code FOUL. Maximize your mind with Thesis today. Time to hit the inside scoop. You got the whole crew here today, and not the guy who usually goes after you. So it might be actually like a peaceful Friday. Ken Rosenthal with us, our FT Senior Insider. Let's start with your latest work in The Athletic on your conversation with Francisco Lindor. Can you give us a little cliff notes or at least a part or two that stand out before people dive into the article if they haven't already?
Yes, the article is a question and answer. It's a pure interview. I ask the questions, he gives the answers, and that's it. There's no other prose by me except a little introduction at the beginning. So you're really getting Lindor unfiltered. And the parts that stood out to me were when he talked about leadership and how he has evolved as a leader, becoming more vocal because he felt this year's team needed that. And he explains that there are all kinds of ways to lead and different guys do it in different ways, but this is the way he has chosen for this particular team this year. And he also talks as well about some of his charity work, which is pretty interesting, how it's education-based because he never went to college, but he has had, in his mind, a lot of people educate him. And one thing I thought was interesting, too, he is doing this work this year with some kind of dental hygiene project where he invites kids to the ballpark one Tuesday every month and talks to them about dental hygiene. And the reason he does this is because as a kid, he needed braces and he felt insecure about his teeth and didn't smile in pictures. Now, the only reason I found this interesting was that he's Mr. Smile and he grew up not smiling in pictures after he got braces. So it's just kind of neat where his career has taken him. And we talked about a ton of things and he addressed everything very forthright.
Did you see a different Francisco Lindor in this interview than you've seen in maybe not as, yeah, I mean, I guess there's like 3 different Lindors. There's the Guardians when he was with the Indians Lindor, then like when he first got to New York. Did you see a different one this year?
I would say, Eric, that all players, as they get older, evolve. And he has certainly done that. I don't know that I would say he's a different guy. He's always been kind of the same guy, the way I've interacted with him. But he makes it clear that, yes, he has grown. He has evolved, and he has taken on more responsibility. One of the interesting parts here was when he talked about how in his first year with the Mets, he took on too much responsibility. He said, in his words, he was trying to hug everything. And he learned that his job is to be shortstop for the New York Mets and play at a very high level. That's what he is supposed to do. Now, there are other things that come with being a $341 million player. He understands that, but he actually tried too hard that first year and took a little bit of a step back.
Trevor, were you with Lindor his first year?
I was with Lindor. Sorry, I just got back in the internet.
No, you're good. You're good. We had a little Wi-Fi thing, but wait, Trevor, can you confirm, Ken? Talking about that, like, how did you feel Lindor was, based on his first year? I know you don't have him now, but how do you think he's developed as a leader?
I think, Ken, what you just said about the wanting to hug everyone, we had a unique situation with the first-time manager in 21, and it pretty much everything fell on Francisco's shoulders to kind of deal with, like be the leader in the clubhouse. He was talking to media a lot. He was doing a lot for us, to the point where we got to the point where, as a group, we decided that we were like, dude, this is just too much. Like, you need to kick some of this stuff off to us, other guys in this clubhouse, because that's when he signed his contract. And I watched him change over time. So into more of a, I don't want to say laid back, but more of he set boundaries better, and for himself, so he can stay within what he can handle, as much as he can handle everything well that he needs to handle, and then be the best version of himself on the field, because that's all that mattered at the end of the day. He wasn't the PR team. He wasn't he's not the manager. So he had to kind of figure out how to do that, because, you go to New York, they get paid $300 million. You feel like you got to do everything. And I've heard that more and more. He's getting better and better, even since I've left, at that stuff. So it lines right up with everything you just said. He's one of the most impressive professional baseball players I've ever seen, and anyone I played with, I would say he's number one.
All right, Ken, I want to move to a topic that's been on my mind for years, and I don't think we've ever brought it up on this show. I think this is the perfect day to do it, because we've got even an extra player, right? We've got 3 players on the show today. So Paul Skeens is winding down his rookie season. It's actually a very intense Rookie of the Year race. I know it's Jackson Merrill. There's some others that are playing really well now in the National League. My question to you is, there is so much now banking on finishing in first or second place to get an extra year of service time. I don't know if some fans realize how much that can change a career. Getting to free agency sooner, it changes how you negotiate for an extension. What are your thoughts on writers impacting careers and contracts to this extent? The reason it's been on my mind for years is Byron Buxton's contract is heavily incentivized. A lot of it's to do with MVP voting, so he hasn't been there anyway. But I remember when it happened at the time, I'm like, he could make an extra $10 million or something this season if he gets voted in the right way with writers. So what do you think?
Scott, it's a very interesting question. And if you recall, a couple of weeks ago, I co-wrote an article about Skeen's situation. And this was with Stephen Nesbitt and Zach Mizell of The Athletic. And we kind of went into that topic, because it is different when you get to service time. When a guy's getting a $50,000 MVP bonus, even $1 million MVP bonus, I'm not so worried about that as a writer. It's not great. I would prefer that the bonuses are not tied to our votes. It's better that way. But I've never heard of a player actually, or an agent or anyone, telling a writer, hey, here's 10 grand, vote for my guy. And I don't know that would go down very well anyway. But it's one thing when you have these relatively small financial stakes. And when I say relatively, I mean in the baseball world, not in the world of an average person. And it's another thing when it's service time and all of the implications that you just mentioned. And when we wrote that article about Skeens' situation, I actually asked the president of the BBWAA, who is a colleague of mine at The Athletic, Chad Jennings, about this. And his answer was, listen, we're transparent with all our awards and we go about it that way. All the votes are revealed. And the one thing also that came out of that discussion was that the WAA did have some concerns when these new rules regarding the service time and the voting and Rookie of the Year were implemented. Those concerns were expressed to the league, but in the end, the BBWAA decided, okay, we've got 30 voters for each award. It's going to be hard to corrupt one guy and disrupt the whole process that way. And we think because it's 30 voters, we don't believe that anyone is going to be compromised here. Now, again, if you talk to a sports editor of a newspaper, someone who is talking about pure journalistic ethics, we shouldn't be voting for any of these things, right? Not Hall of Fame either. But I think sometimes we can get carried away with thinking about these things, and I don't know that voting for the Hall of Fame is a bad thing to do as a journalist. In fact, it gives us plenty to write about. So there is a line. and I get concerned about the line myself, but I don't believe the line will be crossed. And while it is an ongoing concern, it seems to me we're in the right place. I don't love it. I'll be upfront about that. I wish it weren't this way, but at the same time, I don't see it being something that leads to a bad thing.
In my opinion, I'm always good to see you first, Ken. I haven't seen you in a while. I'm always trying to figure out the good, but I'm always trying to figure out the bad in things. And for me, in my nature, I always steer to the bad, just the way I'm just raised and put into it. You want the good at everybody, but for this situation, I don't know. You think about the whole thing, like you guys are going to make decisions on big implications for some guys, and it changes the whole outcome of a draft. It changes the outcome of, I know there's millions of players that are going to, and there's only 20 rounds, but I don't know. I just don't see this being as a good thing, in my opinion, that the writers have this much sway on it. And I do think, as you said, you're concerned about it. I do think that, people are, whether they're going to talk or where, oh, well, I work for this team for a couple of years and that team, maybe I'll sway this way. So that's my big problem about it. And I think you hit that on the head.
I will say one thing in addition to that. Okay. If you were playing currently, or even I could say this now that you're a former player, this is not something the writers introduced. We didn't have any say in this being introduced in the last CBA. This was something the Players Association and Major League Baseball agreed upon. So in that sense, we're kind of innocent victims here. We didn't start this. We didn't ask for it. It just kind of happened that way. And again, if I were a player and had these concerns, and if I were a player, I'm not saying these concerns are illegitimate. I kind of would have the same feeling you would, Todd. I go right to my union and say, why are we doing this? Why do the writers, even if it's 30 of them on a particular award, have this kind of power? Evidently, no one asked that question.
Yeah, and I think, and I'll give an example. Like back when I played, I know Trevor and Erik remember this, when they changed the per diem on each road trip. And I remember when the year came around, I'm like, wait, what happened? Like nobody even knew. So like this right here, when I'm playing, I'm sure half of the players had no clue about this either, just to kind of button it up. So it's like, I don't think everybody knew, in my opinion, because I think it's a big thing that should have been talked about more.
Considering all that went down in the last CBA, all of the major issues that were discussed and fought over, I seriously doubt that this was topic 100, much less topic 10. I just can't even imagine.
It's important. You know what I mean? I think
it is important.
Very important.
And it does raise the potential for conflicts and all of that. And it is a fair question to raise. It was a fair question for us to raise with the league. Ultimately, we accepted it. Not that we could really do much about it, but at the same time, if I were a player and I had a problem with it, I wouldn't be talking to the writers about it. I'd be talking to my union.
100%. Yes. The Philly-Atlanta series. You are doing the Philly game tomorrow, correct?
I am, yes.
Now that you saw last night's game, the outcome, going into that game, the Braves win, looked like they were going to win. Now they're catching the Phillies. Now they lose. Maybe they're pushing a little bit farther back. The Mets are coming. Which team has more of a push going in which direction? The Braves going towards the Phillies, or the Phillies, or the Mets, or the Braves worried about the Mets catching them?
It's the latter. And the Braves have to get in. That's their focus. And listen, if they would have won last night, we'd be talking about, a 4-game deficit instead of 6, 3 games left in this series. Maybe we have something by the end of the weekend. But in reality, it's pretty difficult to win a 4-game series. And who knows if that was going to happen anyway. The bigger issue is simply getting into the playoffs and holding off the Mets, who are 3 games back, game to game, with their big win yesterday, and the Braves lost to the Phillies last night. So the Braves are a really interesting team to me, and not simply because they're playing often 3 guys who were released in their lineup, Urshela, Laureano, and Merrifield, but because if they do get in and their starting pitching stays intact, they're going to be in a spot that they haven't been in the last 2 years, where they have actually a healthy, effective starting rotation going into the postseason. If you go in and you get in with Sale, with Fried now rounding into form, with Lopez, with Schwellenbach, with Charlie Morton as your number 5, you're a pretty dangerous team. I don't care where your offense is. Obviously, you need it to be at a certain level, but you know what I'm saying. So their concern is simply getting in, and I don't know that catching the Phillies was ever realistic, and it certainly became much more difficult after last night.
And just a reminder, we have Hammer Territory, we have the Phillies show, so both sides of that series covered with shows under the Foul Territory network. Okay, I want to take you to a direction from yesterday's Fair Territory episode that I liked. You covered the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, hello, where are we at here at this point? This season looks like a fail. I mean, it's not going to be a better record, it most likely at this point at the end of the year. So here's my follow-up question to what you talked about yesterday on the show. We're going to cover this later, but Mark Cuban tweeted yesterday about the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't know if you saw this, but it was pretty simple. But, people have been clamoring for him to buy the team, as if anyone could just buy a team. I mean, he has the money for it. But he said, if someone offered you a job that paid $25 million or more per year to stand in Market Square and let the entire city of Pittsburgh yell at you, would you take that job? That job is owning the Pirates. Why would they sell? I thought it was very strong and pointed because he's actually an NBA owner. So when owners cry poor, it can only go so far when there is someone who is in the same business who probably knows quite a bit about how their books work. And he is confirming that they do, in fact, profit hardcore. And that is why they do not want to ever sell a team like that unless, I don't know, maybe you throw out some wild number. But you know what I'm saying? What did you take from someone like that in the owner space calling out Bob Nutting and the Pirates?
Well, it's all that you just said, Scott. It's very interesting. And here's the other side of it. If owning a baseball team was such a difficult, trying proposition for millionaires, then why would they keep the teams? Then why would they buy the teams in the first place? No, they're doing just fine. And they're making money. To what extent, or to the different extents that they do, that's, of course, something that goes on in the game. But the Pirates, in particular, a team that has had low payrolls, gets a lot in revenue sharing. I would think they've done rather well over the years. And to get to what we were talking about yesterday, the owner, Bob Nutting, said before the season started, we wrote a long article about the Pirates in The Athletic, and it was pointed. And he responded in that article and said, we are looking to take a meaningful step forward this season. We are looking to be either in the division race or at least for a postseason berth. Hasn't happened. And frankly, their record is going to be about what it was last year, at least if they continue at their current rate. 7-18 in August. Not good. And this is a team that has had some really good things happen. Paul Skeens being the most obvious, Jared Jones, Nick Gonzalez, some of the young talent that has come up. But where are they going? That's my question. And is this really going forward? Doesn't seem to be, at least in terms of the record. Now, you can point to some things underneath. That's fine. They've been pointing to those things for a long time now. And at some point, they've got to get better in a division that is weak. A division that is there for the taking if they ever get their acts together. And the same would be true for the Reds, for the Cubs, for the Cardinals. Everyone chasing the Brewers. Everyone can be the Brewers in that division. But there's only one team that's leading it, and that has been consistently good over these last several years, and that's Milwaukee.
Yeah, and I'll just say, from interacting with fans all the time on socials, I think the boiling point is higher than ever in Pittsburgh, and they want the story to be told. Sometimes fans get almost defensive about it, but they want everyone to talk about it. Like, hey, what can we do here? We feel helpless about the situation.
Scott, you're absolutely right. And I actually went back and looked at that article again this morning. I was looking for a particular detail that we had, and I noticed there were 740 comments on it. That's high for us. That is a lot of commentary. And again, it is in many cases, in most cases on that particular article, fans wanting this out there, wanting this team called out. Now, it's funny. Different fans react differently in different cities. They react to different messengers in different cities. I remember when I was in Baltimore, when I first got there, and in the years that followed after I became a columnist, I was not from Baltimore. And if I would criticize the Orioles, oh my gosh, who are you? You're not from here. Well, then certain fan bases reach a point where they want their teams to take it. And the Pirates are certainly there. And there are other teams too, Scott, that are in that position where the fans are incredibly frustrated right now. St. Louis is one. San Francisco is one. And I'm missing, I'm sure, a few, but you can name Miami and some others as well.
Seattle, for me,
Seattle's
right
another
now,
one.
based off what's
Yep.
happening this season, I would say that one qualifies. So, yeah, there's quite a few. Toronto. Oakland's in a whole nother world because that's also business and
Right.
relocation related. So we've covered that at length. But Ken, thank you so much, and have fun with the game this weekend. We'll be watching on Fox.
Thanks, guys.
FT Senior Insider Ken Rosenthal hosting Fair Territory. So more on what we were talking about with the Pirates, if you check out the episode either after this one when you're on the FT YouTube channel, or search Fair Territory wherever you get your podcasts. We're swinging right back on FT. We still have a lot to get to with the Phillies and the Braves, but also we've got the Houston comeback, the tough injuries for the Royals coming up next too. Fan questions are flowing in, so I'll get to a super chat from Ref. I actually told him maybe Todd Father's the guy for this. He's like, what are we doing with DJ LeMahieu?
That's not cool, dude.
Dude,
off the
it's
bat.
finished.
I thought it
been
was
a
going to be a Little
struggle.
League question.
Oh, you think you're getting Little League questions? Hey, which Little Leaguer is most likely to make the big leagues? Nah, you're getting the hard hitters, dude. You're back in the big leagues now.
Oh, man. You know, you think about DJ. You can never knock a guy, bro, like him. The way he went about his business in Colorado, now here. I've been there, dude. Not on his level. Don't get me wrong. He was a much better hitter than me. But the struggle is real, man. It just seems like the power is kind of gone, and that happened to me as well. It just, I'm going by experience, and at the end of the day, it's hard. It's a hard decision. You've seen people getting cut left and right. There's some decisions you got to make. I mean, as Waldo Perez, or Jesus, I'm not even saying this right. Peraza. I don't even know. Yeah, Peraza. He's been doing really good. I mean, do you move guys around? I don't know. It's a tough situation right now, but there has to be something made, because come playoff time, like, is that the guy you want playing that position or first base? I don't know.
I got like 30-ish seconds, but Trevor, I mean, he can't be on the playoff roster right now. It's just you got to go with who's playing well. It's been all year for him. He never has found it yet.
Yeah, it's a really tough situation, especially with everything he's had to deal with. You just don't know what you're going to get, and you got to go with the things that you feel most confident are going to give you the best, results. So, they also have, Ben Rice over there, and trying to figure out what to do with him. He hasn't hit at all lately. So it's a lot of pieces, and a couple of them are veteran guys. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go. I'm just glad I don't have to make that decision.
Yeah, and they
Rizzo's
got
coming
Rizzo.
back.
I was just going to say, Rizzo's coming back too.
A
So
lot of guys going
Ooh.
spots.
Good teams
Yeah, I
make
mean-
tough decisions.
Yep.
You got to do it. I mean, whether it's I guess you can keep him on the roster because they still have 2 more years, I think, with DJ, but maybe he doesn't make the playoff roster. If this keeps up, you're almost at 200 at bats, 49 OPS plus, he's almost a -2 win player. So it's tough. All right. We're swinging back to talk about some tough times for the Royals because they just lost Vinny P for quite some time. Better than box scores, we break down games from yesterday. Let's start with the Astros and the Royals. So, Trevor, did you see the play where Ursa got hurt and then, of course, Vinny P gets hurt on that same play? I mean, it was like a huge hit to the Royal season all in one shot, and I don't think we have an update on Ursa yet.
I actually wasn't able to catch it because I was trying to figure out the internet right before I got on here. It kept freezing in the.
Well, here, you're going to see it now.
There it is. Oh, he tried to barehand field it. Urs, man. And then it just, everything falls apart from that point too. And he struggled his last couple outings too. So this is just insult to injury, I think, at this point. Losing Vinny is big. I think it's way bigger than a lot of people are thinking about. He's got 97 stakes, right? So he's the one hitting Bobby Witt in. So losing him is awful, especially with the way he went. You break a bone. There's no way you come back faster. You just have to wait, let that stuff healed. It's not, he can't Max Scherzer it and just come back in half the time, right? So that's a huge blow for Kansas City, who's been a really exciting team to watch, and I'm enjoying watching their resurgence and especially with how last year went. So losing him was big, and Urseg as well. Like, he's been a huge piece for them, especially in the back end of that bullpen. Hopefully it's not the same situation as Vinny with him, but yeah, hate to see it, especially when it's two birds, one stone. That's tough.
Have you ever gotten hit like that, Top Father? The way that Vinny did, where you get locked in with the runner?
No, I've never been not like that. That was a weird one. Never had I've hurt I don't know how broken. I don't know. Just my thumbs are weird anyway. I don't know. The broken thumb would be. Don't shake your head, Kratz. I knew you were going to do that.
Wait, what? Go on. Excuse me.
No, I have like toes for thumbs. They call them, right, Kratz?
You got a big toe. Oh no! Come on, man, we're losing followers. That John is weird.
That thing.
I stamped stuff with this thing. Boom, boom. No, but yeah, no, it's terrible. I don't breaking anything. It stinks, but in that situation, especially how well they've been playing too. I mean, 97 RBIs he's got. That's pretty incredible. That's real. That's real numbers, and that's somebody who's worked his butt off. We've had him on here a couple times, and he's definitely put in the work. And this is a big blow for the Royals.
Tough.
Yeah. And Kratz on the positive side. So the Astros come back. They pick up a dub. Nice job by the bench, too, to mostly get them back in that game yesterday. Because, I mean, the Astros are in the driver's seat, but you still got to, put together, I would say, at least a little bit over 500 the rest of the way here to hold off the Mariners. And, Hader locks it down. Presley's back, your boy. I know you always talk about him being an X factor.
Shocker. The bullpen that was already doing really well gets a little bit of help. To me, it's exactly what you said first. That bench was huge, coming up with getting on base, driving runs in, because you heard Espada say it during the almost no-hitter by Arrighetti. Hey, we got 18 games in a row. If they're going to hold off the Mariners, which everybody believes they will because the Mariners haven't been hitting, they're going to have to get contributions from their bench. They're going to have to be 18 games in a row is a lot of games. And to be able to withstand that and then come out on the other end is the biggest part for me. They need to be healthy, because that's when you're starting to kick it into gear, getting ready for the postseason.
And Kyle Tucker's quietly making progress. It's taken time. It's like the Muncy situation, not the same injury where it's taking longer than expected. But if he's back in a couple weeks, they're going to be a problem. All right. Lastly here, Trevor, you played with Lawrence Butler last year, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, he's pretty good at ball. We had him on the other day. He was an awesome interview. This is his second 3-homer game of the year. He had 5 dingers in this series in Cincinnati.
He is doing it. And these weren't wall scrapers. These were way back. He's an impressive athlete, man. We saw it last year. He just was swinging, missing a lot. He seemed to have cleaned a lot of that stuff up. I mean, his OPS is now up over 800. He started slow, like hitting like 140 with a 500 OPS for the first 6 weeks of the season, and he has been raking ever since. A lot of those guys over in that clubhouse. JJ Bleday has taken a huge step forward. Shea Bangaliers has been crushing the ball. He's one of the most, productive catchers in the league, and no one's really talked about him at the plate. So, but he is, I think the guys take the biggest step forward, and he's got the tools to be a really, really good player for a really long time.
You've got Shea Bangaliers and Law Dog. You guys with your nicknames in Oakland.
You need something, man.
You need something. That's a good way to put it. Hey, it's TV friendly. It's still TV friendly. So you guys know what you're doing. You thread the needle there. That's what you guys do. All right. We have Dusty Wathan coming up next. Excited to talk to the Philadelphia Phillies coach about what's going on in that series and get a little update on the team. So we'll bring him in 2 minutes from now on FT. All right, we got another sponsor to bring to the table. Let's enlighten our friends on Anytime Fitness. Kratz, I'm kind of having you be my bridge today to tell our friends about what we've been talking about for the past week or so since they haven't been with us for a minute. What if
I
it's
need,
like,
I need this too badly.
yeah, because you've been on the road, you're probably, you're probably slacking a little bit. You got to get back on your routine, a little fall game. Exactly, 0. So here's the deal. Let's say, Kratz, it's 2 a.m. and you need to get a lift in. What do you do?
It's easy. One, you can go on the app and they have workouts, they have nutrition that you can follow on the app, or you can just find an anytime fit. It's not sometimes fitness, it's literally anytime. Like, Scott, you don't even go to sleep until 4 a.m. The gym might be empty during that time, but you haven't gotten your lift in. No better way to get them endorphins up, get a little pump on, go to bed.
Yeah, and you get to say hi to the really, really early birds and be like, how is the day going? I'm still in the previous day. So you get to kind of like, merge on that front. Anyway, so 24/7 well-equipped gyms, 5,000 plus that you can look at across the globe if you go to the website. So make sure you check that out. There's expert coaching support, collaborate with a comprehensive personalized plan to get you where you want to go in terms of your fitness goals. Okay. And that is anytimefitness.com. I'm going to drop that special link right now in the YouTube chat, and it's in our description of the podcast and on the YouTube channel as well. Again, that's anytimefitness.com to claim your free Anytime Fitness trial pass. This is a perfect weekend for it. Labor Day weekend. Go get yourself back on track. Okay. Be sure to check out Anytime Fitness via the link in today's episode for more info and to claim that trial pass. We'll be right back with Dusty Wathan talking Philadelphia Phillies.
Todd's thumbs are so big, he gets fitness by playing on his phone.
Here we go. Third base coach of the Philadelphia Phillies, Dusty Wathan, joining us right now. Dusty, great to have you on. We're excited about this series that continues right now with the Phillies and the Braves. And look at this crew you got today. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a pretty good crew right there. Been around all of them a little bit here and there. One more than others, probably.
So let's
What's up,
do
Trevor?
Let's flip this. So let's flip
Dusty?
this, Dusty, if you don't mind, for the intro. I introed you for a second, but can you intro, forget me, the 3 other dudes on this screen that you know a little bit about with a quick, sentence or 2 scouting report?
Well, Trevor played for me for about 4 or 5 years, I think it was, maybe 09 through 12 or so, and we won South Atlantic League Championship thanks to him, thanks to good players like him. There it is. There it is. Nice. He made me look good for quite a few years in the minor leagues managing. And Kratzy and I have run across each other a couple of times. He was in Philly a couple of times, in Kansas City. My dad was working there, and then Todd was over third base with the Mets, and I think we spent some time next to each other and had some pretty good conversations, and he had pretty sick shoes at the Little League Classic that one year, I remember.
Thank you very much.
I like that. That was a great scouting report. All right, so let's dive into the series here. What did you think of Game 1 and the comeback and how everything worked out for your ball club? Getting like a playoff vibe against the top divisional opponent at the moment for you.
Yeah, I think when you're playing the Braves at this time of year, it's going to feel like a playoff. We've had great crowds the whole year. Last night was no exception. And it was definitely a playoff atmosphere. We were kind of quiet early. It was one of those things where you're sitting around saying, something's got to happen. And then, Marshy comes up with a big swing, 3-run homer, gets it within 1. You feel like, okay, now we got a chance. So, everything a lot of times is dictated by the offense. Everybody says you're flat and things like that. But when you're not hitting, you don't have a lot of base runners. We had a couple opportunities with some walks, not a lot of hits early in the ball game, but all it takes is one big swing after you get a couple guys on. And it really turned the game around, and then allowed Nick later on to hit the big 2-run homer for us too. So good win for us, good tone setter to start a 4-game series against the team that's chasing you.
I want to put you in the situation by painting it how Philly fans saw it last night. They looked down to third base and they were like, "What's the deal with Wathan? What's the deal with Wathan not giving Hayes the bunt sign? Does he not want him to bunt there?" So that play where Hayes was up, Marshy had hit the double, and Marshy gets thrown out by Olsen after a ground ball to Orlando Arcia to Olsen. They get Marshy at third. Great aggressive base running. Maybe should have taken a step closer, whatever. Did you feel like that was blocking the base? Like the rule, we talk about the different rules that they try to implement. And in that situation, what I saw was it was a clear and blatant version of blocking the base. And did the umpire tell you something different?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't like the rule. I don't like it in place. But if we're going to have a rule, we're going to have to call it the right way. So I think sometimes the umpires get a little bit of different information than we get. And I'm going to have a talk tonight with Vic Carapazza down at third base, because I have a pretty good relationship with him, and ask him, what they're being told and what we're being told. To me, it looked like Williams' foot was clearly in front of the base. He was going to be clearly out, but by rule, by what we were told in spring training, you can't have your feet in front of in the front of the base. You can't have a knee down, anything like that. And I was just watching the game, actually, Brewers game, a couple hours ago or half hour ago, and it looked like there was a blocking of the base and they didn't call it. So I don't know if we've pushed it aside now. We did have one called in LA. Hunter Windelstadt called it with Bohm sliding in and Rojas covering the base. Made a great play, heck of an athletic play to get there, tag him out. But, I think if the rule's in place, I think we got to call it consistently. It's a really hard thing for them to do. Obviously, there's all kinds of stuff going on. It's not reviewable. They're trying to get the out safe call, trying to figure out, is this guy's foot in front of the base? So I understand it. I understand they don't want to call it because to the average fan, I mean, he looked out by a lot. But again, if it's the rule, it's the rule. So it's a little bit frustrating to me, and I was a little bit frustrated about it last night.
Speaking of rule changes, you're the first third base coach I've gotten to talk to since the pickover rule was put into play, and I'm curious to get your take on how the running game has changed, or how you, as someone who's putting in the running signs, have started to think differently about getting guys to go, because the Phillies are fifth in steals this year, which historically maybe wasn't there. Well, hasn't, at least in the last few years, been the main thing that they do, and they've been running a lot more. So when it comes to when the rule came in, how did things change in terms of what you were looking for in getting guys to go and maybe try to take that extra base?
Yeah, well, I'm also in charge of our throwing over, our running game on defensive side of it. So it's changed a lot. You really have to use your pickoffs at the right time when you think the guy's really going to run. And obviously, we've really worked on and harped on our pitchers to quicken up their times to the plate. And we have at times. I think you've noticed Aaron Nola especially has really done a good job of quickening his times up to the plate. In prior years, he would be a lot slower and lead the league in pickoffs, I think, almost every single year by throwing over 3, 4, 5 times on guys. So I think it's made the pickoff more valuable. So you can't just toss one over. Guys used to just kind of get the feel and toss one over there. I think there has to be a little bit more intent to throwing over to first base than there has been in the past. And then on the base running side of it, Topper, he gives me everything from the bench about when we're going to run and stuff like that. We have a little bit more freelance in first and third situations where I'll kind of read the defense, if you will, and see what we're going to do from third base, if we're going to go home, if we're not. But for the most part, that comes from the bench, and they do a heck of a job of figuring out times to the plate and catchers throwing and what pitch we think is going to be thrown. So it's a little bit of an analytic information game, if you will.
Dusty, this is you over here telling old Stubbsy and Real Muto, Garrett Stubbs and JT Real Muto, to throw or not to throw, pick or not to pick. I have to hit on the fact that Garrett Stubbs threw a 1.76 to second on Friday? Was that Wednesday that he did that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wednesday.
It was the fastest time by any I think anybody in the big leagues this year, but definitely faster than him or Real Muto. Can you put to bed all the kids in high school that are posting that they're throwing 171s that are not real times?
Yeah, I don't know where those times come from. It's amazing to me that every kid in high school is throwing under 1.8, 1.9. I remember, I mean, it used to be like if you could get under a 2, you were like, oh man, I got a chance. Like you're in pro ball, you're like, I threw a 1.95. That was electric. And now every kid in America is throwing 1.76s. And we got, the best of the best here, and Stubby threw a 1.76. And we did tease him the other day. We think that the pitch to the plate was the same speed as the pitch going to second. So it might have been a 1.76 home and a 1.76 a second. But no, it's crazy. I don't know where those times come from. You see the little stopwatches on the videos and stuff, and it's obviously a lot harder in a game and where the pitch is going to be, and you can't cheat, and you don't know if a guy's going. So it's interesting. I don't buy it.
Thank you.
No, neither do I. You were a manager once, and now you're the third base coach of the Phillies, as we know. Can you go over a little bit and tell the people a little bit the homework that goes involved in being a third base coach? It's not just giving signs and, the stuff that you have to do behind the scenes to prepare for each series coming up.
Yeah, it's a lot of video work. And obviously, this is my 7th year doing it. So it's a little bit easier because you've seen a lot of the arms. The first couple of years, you haven't seen it live, and you've been through more situations. I did it for 10 years in the minor leagues as a minor league manager. And then, so this is my 7th year up here. So I've been doing it for 17 years. So it's lucky that you have all these opportunities of plays to come up. But also, there's a lot of video work. We have some advanced scouting stuff that I match up to our video. Everything's measured now, so velocity of throws and everything. But I think a lot of it is just with your eyes and seeing, does an outfielder throw better on a ball that bounces to him? Does he throw better on a ball that is in the air or to his left or to his right? Or does he not go to his left very well? So it's just a lot of video work and, following up with the advanced scouting stuff that we have and making sure it all matches up.
My second part to this question is that because at third base, we've had some good conversations. Was there anybody, in between, pitchers and being taken out and in, you got a couple minutes to talk? Any good conversations or some of the best third basemen you've talked to where you're like, oh man, you left that inning, you're like, man, that was a pretty cool conversation. Or you're like, oh my God, what the hell did we just talk about? Don't you point at me either.
No, I mean, there's a lot of good guys.
I was getting it from the fans, you know what I mean? They used to bark at me over there. You remember that?
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting because there's some guys that really want to talk and some guys that are really locked in. But, Nolan Arenado is one guy that's he's locked in. And next thing you know, he'll talk to you for 2 minutes about something. But there's a lot of good guys. I mean, I can't pick off one, but I know Nolan's always a good guy. He always asks about my son. One time they met, so he always asks about my older son. But there's definitely a lot of good guys. Austin Riley, who I've been around a lot over the last 7 years, great guy. We have good conversations. A lot of times it's about his growing family that he has, and he'll ask about my family and just what's been going on lately and things like that. And he wants to talk about hunting and stuff too. So I got to be around him at the All-Star game, so it was a little bit more last year. So mostly the guys in your division you tend to because you see them a lot more. The other guys, it's been over the years, and you just kind of catch up and ask them how they're doing and how they're swinging the bat and stuff like that. I know Manny has a good connection with Bobby Dickerson, our infield coach. So we're always bantering back and forth and talking about Bobby or talking about how he's no good anymore because Bobby's not there and teasing him about stuff like that.
All right, last year in the playoffs, you were a GOAT and you were goated. You were like booed, and then you were cheered for some of the sends around third of the guys going home. What goes into that, and how much of a process of that is you just seeing one thing and going with it, or is it the scouting report, sending a guy that needs to score, especially in big situations because the Phillies are always playing big games?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell everybody that coaching third base is the closest thing to being a player that you can possibly get once you're done playing because you can actually impact the game in a moment in a quick decision just like you do as a player. So it's a lot of fun, but obviously it comes with, failure, and that happens sometimes. Sometimes you're a hero, sometimes you're a GOAT. It's just like being a player. You're not going to make the right decision every single time. I learned this a long time ago from Doug Manzolino, who was our infield coordinator, field coordinator, and longtime third base coach in the major leagues, that, you don't want to get too high, you don't want to get too low, and you're not out there to score runs. The players are going to score the runs. You're going to help a little bit, but a lot of times you'll see me go to third base after a guy's safe or out, and he taught me this little saying to say, "This too shall pass." Whether the guy's safe or out on close pace, sometimes you send a guy and you think he's probably going to be out and he ends up being safe, and sometimes vice versa happens. So, you're never going to always be right. The fans think every guy should score, and every guy you stop should have scored, and every guy you send should be safe, and that's impossible. But, you know the situation of the game, you know who's coming up, and you know where we're at with our bullpen and pitching, especially during the regular season. And you take all those things in, and then you make a split-second decision, and hopefully it's right.
I just thought of this, kind of random, but cool to get from you because we don't get to talk to third base coaches that often. Would you have sent Alex Gordon? You ever watch that play and just think about what you would have done? The Alex Gordon play, and what was that, Kratz? Bring Kratz in so he can fill in the blanks here for the crowd.
Jersley, 2014. He's seen it. His dad's royalty out in Royals land. So yeah, for sure, he's seen that.
Yeah, Jersh. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it's easy to say now, yes, no, maybe. But when you're in the moment, I think it's what you feel. It's like what a player does. It's like when you're playing third base or and you see the first bounce of a ball. Do I go get it? Do I drop step it? As a catcher, am I going to block this ball? Am I going to pick this ball? You just have to make that quick last minute decision, and you got to go with it. And you hope that all the homework you've done and the experience you have helps you in that situation. So I have a hard time when people talk and start second guessing third base coaches, because I know how difficult it is. And I know that all these guys, especially in the big leagues, have put a ton of work into going out there that day. And, sometimes you're going to make mistakes. It's just like a player.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for you. It's a high pressure job. Do you want the manager job in the big leagues? Have you thought about that? And, I know you've been up in a good spot with the Phils here for a minute, but does Rob Thompson inspire you? A guy who really put in the time and he has thrived in the role. And there was a time where he thought he was going to be done and never get that opportunity.
Yeah, well, I think I'd like an opportunity one day to manage. I like where my feet are right now. I enjoy being in Philadelphia. I've been with the Phillies now for 19 years, I think, 2 as a minor league player, 10 in the minor leagues and 7 in the big league. So I love this organization. I never thought I would be with one organization for this long of a period of time, and I'm grateful for it. But the opportunity to manage in the right situation, I would be ready and willing to try that opportunity. I've had some interviews over the years, and obviously not chosen, but maybe one day it'll happen. But like I said, right now I'm in a really good place. We have a great group of players, great staff, support staff, coaches, front office, ownership. So I can't imagine really being in another place than where I'm at right now. So I'm just going to enjoy my time now. And if that opportunity arises in the future, then I'll be willing to talk about it and maybe jump in on it.
Dusty, last thing for me. Not many people really know who the third base coach is. Not many people know your big league career. Can you tell us how that opportunity went down and what an awesome – because I mean, I heard your dad tell the story about it, and I had played against you. I had played for you for one game in a rehab, and I didn't even know what your big league story was, because we try to focus on everybody's big league story. Brady Feigl just got called up at 33 years old. We had him on 2 days ago for the Pirates. So can you just give us a glimpse of what happened in your – and you probably won't say it. You're a 600 hitter in the big leagues. But anyway, everything else you need to fit in.
I'm one of the few guys that would like an opportunity to bring his average down in the big leagues a little bit. Never got that opportunity, though. It was a crazy year, 2002. I originally signed that year with San Diego, got traded for Kevin Barker in spring training to Milwaukee, went to Double-A with Milwaukee, got hurt, ended up asking for my release because they had a young catcher that they brought up, didn't really want to activate me, so I asked for my release. I had a choice between going to Double-A with the Pirates or Triple-A and splitting time with Hector Ortiz in Omaha in Kansas City's Triple-A, and chose Kansas City. Ended up playing the rest of the year there. Had a pretty good year. Went home to my wife's family's house in Canada. I was on the first fairway, and the pro comes flying out in a golf cart, and this is pre-cell phones. Well, at least you couldn't have them in Canada. I didn't have the money to pay for one in Canada, I'll tell you that. So he comes flying out and he says, we got a guy on the phone from the Kansas City Royals. They need to talk to you. They called me and they said, we need you to come to Detroit. We're going to call you up. They didn't put me on the active roster. Come to find out, it was Brent Maine and AJ Hinch were the only catchers in the big leagues at the time. There was no catcher as a September call-up, which traditionally happens. And both of their wives were due on the same day in September. So I went to Detroit, traveled with the team for a couple of days. And then I think it was AJ's wife had the baby first. I got activated, got into a game late, got a hit, and I actually got to start the final game of the year. So, and then never got back after that. Went to Cleveland for a couple of years, 3 years in AAA and 2 years in Philly, and said, that's enough. I'm done.
That's crazy. I'm a big believer in a heat check. You can't let somebody have a 600 batting average in the big leagues. Like, it's not allowed. They got to give you at least next game you go for 4. Okay, hey, we gave you the one other game, but you can't do 600 and not get another shot.
I hit 600 and they DFA'd me the day after the season was over.
What are we doing?
I don't know. I'll tell you, they didn't win for a long time after that. I don't know if it was the curse or what, but I don't know.
They could hit, though. The Royals could always hit. They couldn't pitch, so they knew you couldn't pitch, Dusty.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I'll say this. We didn't exist back then, but if we did, we would have called it out. Tried to get it back up there. Make it hey, right. Media, use the power of voice. But, hey, yeah. Dusty, this was awesome. Really appreciate the time. Great to have you on. Enjoy the rest of the big rivalry series, and good luck the rest of the way.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. Dusty Wathan from the Philadelphia Phillies, their third base coach, joining us on FT, which is coming right back if you're on YouTube. We'll go over a couple things during the break. All right, crew. Rhett Lauder is debuting today for the Cincinnati Reds. He was the number 7 overall pick last year, so that means 5 of the 7 top picks in last year's draft have made it to the big leagues within 14 months. Skeens, Cruz, Wyatt Langford, Jacob Wilson, the others to crack the show so far. So, Trevor, I don't think we've had you since the draft. Well, actually, we had you at All-Star, but I looked back. Chase Burns and Rhett Lauder joining the Reds, and the case is made on their part that they have trouble recruiting pitching. Is that true? And do you like the decision they make where you get drafted and you kind of have no choice but to join the Reds? So they said, nah, no Charlie Condon. We have more trouble building up what we have. And they've got some pretty good arms there.
It is interesting seeing how the drafts have changed, because it was always like, best available. We hear that in the NFL draft a lot because there's less players and guys are up quicker. Now that baseball has started to call guys up quicker, it's starting to be they're starting to get what they need because they're going to have it soon, as opposed to just building in 4 years in the minor leagues. That's more true for college guys than high school guys, but it's so interesting because now we're seeing guys have to develop at the big league level, and there's the big league staffs that have been there for a while are having to figure out how to do that. That was something I noticed with the A's last year. But to make a decision to go get some pitching and kind of maybe skip a guy who could possibly be a franchise type star in order to get some guys that they're going to help your team in a shorter timeline is kind of rare, or has been up to this point, but it's becoming more common. So I like it. They do need pitching. I understand that Park is a place that it historically helps hitters. Todd Father thought about that, but
say it with your chest, big dog. Don't be twitting around that mic.
It's a bandbox, Todd. It's a bandbox.
What?
That's the only place you could have won the home run derby. It's the only place. That's what he said.
Philly. And Philly. Keep going.
And Philly. Put it this way: Louis Guillorme has 5 homers in his career, and 4 of them are in Cincinnati.
I love it.
Jeez, Luis just catching strays. Holy cow!
Luis
do, Trevor.
Proud of that one. He's proud of that. He loves going there. He's like, I don't hit homers. I love this place.
I love it. Hey, we talk prospects every Tuesday on the Baseball America YouTube channel. The show's called Hot Sheet. It's at 3 o'clock Eastern time. JJ Cooper, the star over there at Baseball America, bringing his colleagues and his friends. So check it out on Tuesday if you want to ask us any questions about prospects.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Well, this tweet got a lot of action, so we have some good quotes today for That's What He Said. Let's start with the chatter in Pittsburgh as the Pirates are cooked this season, as they've been cooked for quite a few seasons now, and it's getting very frustrated. We feel for the fans. We're trying to make sure the word is known about what's going on there. So there was some back and forth. Eventually, this guy, John Linder, who I think does some media out there, said, I talked with Mark Cuban about buying the team back in 2006. He loves the Pirates, but says the owners will never sell due to their business model. They aren't required to spend money, so they never do. And they make big profits every year through TV and everything else. Lost cause. Mark Cuban replied last night and said, if someone offered you a job that paid $25 million or more per year to stand in Market Square and let the entire city of Pittsburgh yell at you, would you take that job? That job is owning the Pirates. Why would they sell? Kind of confirmed everything that we often get asked about and that we can cover on this show and many other shows cannot talk about, Kratz. But the Pittsburgh Pirates have a really good business model, and if there's someone that would know about it, it would be Mr. Shark Tank, Mr. whatever he is, billionaire, and Mr. Team Owner, who probably knows a thing or two about the books behind the scenes of how a team like that operates.
And there's a reason. Go ahead, Todd. Go ahead.
No, and I'll be quick. I just think, there's kind of two sides to this. Like, since he's an owner, he understands too. I know he's had some losing seasons too. I think he gets it and understands that. But it's also a jab at the Pirates too, as well. So I mean, he says, he loves the Pirates. That's what he says in this when he's talking to John Linder. But he's kind of bashing him a little bit too. So it's kind of two-sided. He's bashing him, but at the same time, he's trying to tell the people and show them exactly what it is like to own a losing team. And I think he says it well. And you could take it for any team. You pick a team in whatever city, you go to their most famous place, and you're going to get yelled at. Would you do that for $25 million? Yeah, of course you would. So you got to find a way to win. I think that's what he's saying. And being an owner isn't really that bad, even if you are losing.
I think he's saying he's a crook. I mean, Mark Cuban's from Pittsburgh, so obviously he's done a nice job running the Mavericks for years. So people are like, damn, do you really need the profit like that? Do you need to milk the team for every dollar and be bad and just not care? I mean, that was the
other side. Yep.
Yeah, the true recipe, that's what he's saying. He's like, yo, he's not going to sell. I mean, to me, it's more the business side. It's like, hey, if you're making this much money on something and you have a guy who doesn't care about baseball and he's not a fan, that's actually the easiest way to pull it off, right? Like, he's never there. AJ Burnett confirmed that for us. Kratz, he doesn't go. Burnett was parking in his spot all year until one time he went to a game and it was like, get out of my spot. And Burnett was like, eat dirt. So that's the story there.
And the reason he has a great business model, the reason you look at it as a business is because of the fans, is because of the history of Pirates throughout history of the other teams that have been there. Like, when those teams are good, there's generations of Pirates fans that are craving a winner. And he has an opportunity to, make more money when this team is winning in this city because they will own that city. They want to be Pirates fans. They don't want to be Steelers fans.
I mean, maybe you're attacking the Steelers, and I'm like, I kind of want to. People love the Steelers, but honestly, here's how I'm thinking about it. There's some owners that run their team like an Airbnb, and there's some owners that run it like it's their baby. And the thing is, every owner could run it like an Airbnb because the system's set up to reward them for that. So if all 30 owners decided to act that way, they could, and there's nothing anyone could do about it. Unfortunately, the league would die if everyone did it. So it's these guys like Nutting and like John Fisher, and I mean, to some extent the guys that own the Rockies, right? So like they're okay with what they have, and they're just going to kind of keep it there because they make money, and they can make off the noise a little bit. Like John Fisher's the most, confrontation I've ever heard of, and he owns a baseball team, so it must be making a lot of money. Because if he really felt bad for getting yelled at, he wouldn't touch this thing unless it was incredibly lucrative. So, I've never bought it when they say things like, "Oh, this is tough. Like we have, we're not making as much money, or this, that, and the other." There's no owner has lost money on a season in as long as anyone can remember, and that's why you never hear anyone say that specifically, like that we lost money this year, because it's all done through clever accounting and pushing off expenses for years and all this stuff to make it's just business. So it's frustrating. It's annoying. But to hear another guy who's in the world say something like that and just be like, you know what? It's a choice. He's making a choice, right? These guys make the choice to do this, and at some point, you got to take some pride in the thing that you have your name attached to, and they don't seem to care. And it's hard to have much respect for someone who operates like that. I don't know. I don't understand how someone's brain works that way, but money talks. When you get to these type of numbers we're talking about, sometimes it's easy to not care about anything, I guess.
Yeah, and that brings me to this quote yesterday from Nick Castellanos to Alex Tantum. He said, "I would change that ownership doesn't have any severe consequences for losing for an extended period of time. Just like if we're in the big leagues and we don't perform, well, we get demoted or cut. If their organization didn't perform well, somebody else would have an opportunity to buy it from them to, keep it to where nobody can really own the game of baseball because the game is above true ownership." But that would never happen. It's a really cool way to put it. I mean, again, yeah, it can never happen. The word that gets used sometimes, Todd Father, from fans on socials is relegation, which is a thing overseas with some of the soccer leagues, right? I don't know the soccer world too well, but basically you can have a
little Ted Lasso action. Yeah.
Major League Soccer team and it gets booted down to the minors, but it would never happen. But that's, in an ideal world, if we could redo the way that the game is put together, we would do things like that and have checks and balances to our sport, because otherwise it just has a really deep impact, not just on the major leagues, but on baseball in general, right? Top Father, like you grow up, you watch a team. If the team never cares, then you probably are going to be less of a fan of that team. And maybe you don't fall in love with the game the same way.
Yeah, and if you think about it, think about this, and it's not too far-fetched either. And people are like, oh, this would never happen. How about just think of, for example, Aaron Judge, the first month he had this year, right, was really not good, right? Well, if there was relegation, it's like, oh, we got to get him off. Let's put somebody else in there and get them. I'm not saying, would that happen? Probably not. But if there's relegation and the team's not winning and this, you would see a lot more moves. You would see a lot more, pressure to do other things. And I think, it's that "what have you done for me lately" attitude, man. And that's what some coaches live by, and especially at a younger age and in high school and college. I had a high school coach. That was his sign in the front of his office. "What have you done for me lately?" And he's an Italian guy, and it was like, all right, you better step up or shut up now. And there would be a lot more pressure on a lot of these guys. But, whether it's relegation or that type of move where, the owners, if you're the White Sox right now, in our minds, what are they even doing? Honestly, it's not even a team. And I feel bad for the players. I feel bad for the city. And it's like, well, there's got to be a change. And, there won't be, but there's got to be something else that we can do.
Yeah, I think just the power of media, Trevor. I think that's the only thing you can do is just, talk about it. And I mentioned now there are some fan bases, I'm generalizing here, that come together, and some that kind of get in attack mode and defensive mode where they don't want anyone else to talk poorly about their team. They're like, this is my disaster. Pirates fans are not like that at all. They're like, let's share this disaster to the world because we are just throwing our hands up. We don't know what to do anymore. So we'd at least love to get the attention. Talk about what's going on here. Talk about the fact that we have one of the most exciting pitchers to hit the big leagues as a rookie that we've seen in a long time, and that we offer zero support before the season started, just about zero support at the trade deadline, and not much hope for the future when your largest deal is from 1 billion years ago and it's 2 years, $17 million for Russell Martin. The best trivia question ever, but the worst trivia question ever.
Yeah. I get so frustrated thinking about this stuff. It's one, you have to talk with your wallets That's what that's the power the fans have. You can yell and you get angry and talk about it on social media and all that kind of stuff, but these guys aren't on. They avoid that stuff on purpose. Like if you want to yell at them, that's not the place to do it because they can just turn you off, and that's what a lot of them do. So the problem is it's revenue sharing is the hit would have to be taken over time. It would take years for them to realize that their decisions are hurting their bottom line, and then that's the only thing that would make any changes happen or incentivize moving it. Like for them to sell the team, that has to not be a cash cow, and in order to do that, you're going to hurt a lot. The fans are going to get hurt, and the players in that team are going to get hurt for a long time. Like no one's going to not watch Skeens to stick it to nutting. Like we're electric. He just got this guy, and people are going to be like, well, I can't not watch him. But at the end of the day, that's going to make Bob money, and that's how they have you. That's kind of how the system works, and you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And that's when guys are billionaires, that's how they like it. It's a nice life to have at that point. So, but again, media has a role to play. If people are swayed by their personal perception, that helps a little bit. The conversation being had all the time helps. And then there are some levers that happen in the commissioner's office and whatever. We know, that he works for them and Rob does. But you say something long enough and you push it hard enough that sometimes it work out. So I guess keep fighting the good fight, but also don't hold your breath.
What if you said about hitting their wallet, that's where it makes it hurt. What if during the tenure of you owning a team for 30 years, they can come up with a percentage during that 30 years of how many games your team has won? And when you go to sell the team at 30 years, just like the free agency tiers, your tax back to Major League Baseball, you're in the 5% because during that time you won 54% of your games. You're in a 5% tax penalty back to Major League Baseball. That would make the teams use that money that they're getting, because that's all we're asking. I think that's all we're asking as fans and as fans of Major League Baseball is use the money that you're getting in revenue sharing to better your team, and you will ultimately put a better product out on the field, and you'll end up starting to win more games. But if you're not ever penalized in the end product of I'm selling my team for $3 billion, then you're right. They'll never make a change.
These are all great ideas. Unfortunately, I'm going to be the Grim Reaper. It'll never happen because they'd have to agree to that. So you're never going to get someone to agree to rules that harm themselves.
Some would,
but they won't have that battle internally. They might have a debate about it, and then they'll come out of it and say, we voted 30-0 that we would never do anything like that. That's just how the system works. Okay, let's finish with something fun here. Castellanos also didn't want to be interrupted after hitting a big dinger yesterday. So he allowed the reporter, whoever it was, to handle their business before he kept going with his conversation.
Marsha's swing, breathe into the dugout into the stadium. You feel like just big 3-1 swing right there.
Well, there wasn't much. Hold on, let him get that. Good. There wasn't a lot of life.
First of all,
yeah.
Who is rocking that? Who is rocking the rotary phone ringtone?
They're annoying.
Come on.
Whoever that is annoying.
That's awful.
He wanted to make sure it wasn't an emergency. I like that. I respected that.
Wait,
I'm going to answer. Wait.
Trevor,
I would say,
actually, you're allowed. You're the one, Trevor. You should have that ringtone because you cannot miss your wife's phone call when she goes into labor. When it's baby time, I need that, John. I need that going on all your screens. I need it connected to your speakers. Time to go. And it's got to be the most annoying ring to wake you up.
You know what sound would never get past my ears? The bullpen phone. I'll just get that.
Oh, that's loud.
I'll do. I'm here.
That's really good.
Try to grab my glove. Yeah. I'll look. I'll bet you I can find it. I'll get that one. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a nightmare sound, the bullpen phone sound. But also, I'll let you guys in on a little secret. I don't know. I'll guess maybe 10% of ringtones among, certain media members are probably that or something along those lines where you're like, is that really your ringtone? I mean, there are some that will say they're not the most hip humans on the planet, right? There's some media members that are like, yep, got this thing 10 years ago, haven't changed a thing. There's a little bit of that. Like, Todd Father, you deal with some of the old New York media out there. And, you occasionally get the writers been with the same paper for 30 years. And you're like, this dude's a character. I would put it that way.
There you go.
I miss the newspapers, man. Waking up in the morning, your dad. I couldn't wait for I don't know why I'm just talking about this, but he would get the newspaper first, and I'm like, come on, man, finish. I'm trying to go to school here. I wanted to see if I got a picture in the paper or something, and I miss the newspapers. Those are the best.
We need to ask the next reporter. The next reporter to come on, we need to ask him. Just tell us what your ringtone is right now, and see. It's just a little quick hitter. I bet you are exactly right, Scott. You're exactly right.
There's some bad ones, dude, because I've spent a lot of time in clubhouses and press boxes and all that. And just on my way out here, I miss magazines like the ESPN, SI, all those kind of nice and crisp coming in to the mail, nice and shiny. Kind of carry that around with me to school, read that.
Yell at
they had me doing.
I used to deliver the newspapers around the town or whatever, and I would try and hit the puddles all the time just to make it fun for me. And that's how I developed a good arm in baseball.
So you threw people's newspapers into puddles?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would see the puddle, like, wherever it was, and try and launch it. I could never. I mean, I've hit them a couple of times, but they wouldn't like me. I was young and stupid. So
I love it. It's great. If someone's complaining, be like, sorry, I won you guys a Little League World Series over that, okay? That's what helped my accuracy.
I got $3.
Wow. He'd still try to hit the puddles. I would.
Yeah, exactly. I made $3 for delivering newspapers when I was 6 and 7 years old.
$3 an hour or $3 period?
$3. That was it.
Woo.
I was happy though.
Yeah.
Times have changed, I think. Anyway, Quickie break, hot corner next. We're going to ask Trevor how to pitch to Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. Plus, we'll get his thoughts on Josh Hader. Plus, we'll all talk about the dump deadline, which is around the corner. Just a beautifully produced, you know what I'm saying, Kratz? You know where I'm going right now? Just the timing.
Just unbelievable. Good for you. I mean, we have to give a shout out to Claudia and Jer for our last conversation, and now we're going to Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile, if you hit the QR code, one, you can get one of those, you can turn your phone to just the brutal ringtone. Two, you're going to laugh all the way every time that phone rings because you're only spending $15 a month for the first 3 months. You're not even, for your plan now, you probably don't even spend $45 for 1 month. You're getting down to $15 a month for 3 months. It's a ridiculous deal.
Yeah, it's high-speed data, unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. And you're like, you're crazy. Nah, just go visit the site. mintmobile.com/territory. You can get a great ringtone. You can get a terrible ringtone. The phone number transfers, the whole deal. The most annoying part's probably just going through the process. It's like a breakup. You got to do the phone call to the old carrier and say it's not you, it's me. I just don't want to spend as much, and I'm getting the same service and everything else. So anyway, go check that out. mintmobile.com/territory. And right there, you'll see all 3-month plans, only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan to get that new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. Mint.com/territory to cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on their first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. I'm so giddy about the dump deadline, hot corner time, just because it's new. And, I feel like our show coined the phrase. I brought it up to Ken Rosenthal when I hosted Bear Territory with him a couple weeks ago. And he was like, I love the name. So then you get even more excited because Ken's going to use it and write about it. So anyway, it's happening. It's kind of a crappy process, Todd Father, but players get placed on waivers. So we now know Tommy Pham, Travis Jankowski, Robbie Grossman, Nicky Lopez, and then 3 Giants players, Thairo Estrada, Tyler Matzek, and Tyler Rogers are all placed on waivers. That happened before this deadline on Thursday because by Saturday at 11:59 p.m., if you're claimed by a team, you're eligible for the postseason, and it's a 48-hour process. So now we know who the names are, and then tomorrow, I guarantee you we'll at least get a couple guys landing on new ball clubs. I think Pham gets picked up. I think Trevor Rogers gets picked up, even though he's making $12 million plus next year. But what do you think about these dump deadline moves?
Yeah, I mean,
Taylor
Rogers. You said Tyler and Trevor, and it's Taylor.
Okay.
And yesterday, Kratz said he thought that the Orioles were going to bring in Tyler, and they already have Trevor. Yeah, I'm losing it.
Hey, I messed up.
Taylor.
I messed up Cabrera's too today. So me and you messed up a name. We're good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when these people go through these claims, like you don't even know it. And what is it? I remember being in the minor leagues and guys are like, oh, I just got put on waivers or, did this. And, you don't even know. It goes through the whole system and everybody tries to, maybe get a guy from somebody so they don't get him and all that kind of good stuff. So I think Tommy Pham is a money pickup for anybody. This guy's been doing it. Is he in the prime of his career? No, but he's a leader. Yeah, and I think a lot of these guys will, and the guys that don't, it stinks. It's just one of those deals, especially at the end of the year, you worked your butt off just to end it like this. It's not good.
Yeah, I think Rogers is the prize of the dump deadline because he's a good reliever, Trevor.
Yeah.
This year, Trevor May. I'm talking to Trevor May about Taylor Rogers.
I also played with Taylor for 6 years, so I'm very aware of Taylor. Yeah, he's had a really good year. And he's a bullpen guy. Everyone needs bullpen help. Again, he's owed $12 million next year, but he's been really good for since he's been with San Francisco. So that might be just something, a guy, they can just pick him up. Don't have to trade for him. Get another guy to push you into the next year, and then he might get to go somewhere that's competing, and make a run at this thing. So it's interesting. Remember last year with the Angels like DFAing their whole or they're putting their whole team on waivers, and right at the end after they just traded for everybody. It seems like it's one of those situations. It seems like a huge deal, but the vast majority of them just go through because there's not enough teams that have spots that can make this, make these moves, especially because there's only month left in the season, and then you add in the fact that even the playoff teams like probably have less flexibility in their roster as well. You need a 40-man spot. There's no one going the other way, so it's not a 1-for-1. And I don't believe you can work out direct trades. There might be a player to be named later. You can't. So there's no trading involved in this.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of questions in the chat actually about how all of this works. Not anymore. So there's no trade involved. You can't claim the player back. Like it's not whatever they call the irrevocable waivers. What happens is you just say, I'm okay losing this player in 2 days if another team claims him and picks up the rest of the contract. Some people ask, is it minimum money? No, they'd have to clear through waivers and then they get signed for the league minimum, which has happened with a number of players already. I think Neris, I think Hayward, I think some of those guys went through that process where any team could pick them up. But with a guy like Rogers, I mean, there is a lot of money due next year, but he's a good player and you'd have to take that contract, and that includes the 12 mil plus for next year. But I mean, if the guy was a free agent this offseason, wouldn't he get close to that? I mean, I think he'd get at least a 2-year contract for maybe a little less AAV. So I think it's actually a good deal, and some teams are going to want to jump on it. So anyway, you get picked up, the team takes the rest of the money. That's why someone like Thairo Estrada, who's making maybe like 4, 5, 6 mil or something, he's still got almost $1 million left and he's not hitting. So they're like, maybe he doesn't get claimed. So hopefully that answers all the questions. Then someone asked how it worked out last year. I mean, a lot of the players, unfortunately, didn't perform well from the Angels. I might be missing one or two, but obviously Giolito was bouncing around. He said that was messing him up and he was struggling with that. There were a few others, Kratz, I'm trying to remember, from the Angels that moved around.
I'm trying to think too. I mean, it was more than Giolito. I mean,
the Guardians claimed a few of the guys.
These guys were dropped. Aaron Loop, but they didn't go anywhere. They went through and then they just went back. And then Matt Moore re-signed with them in the offseason again.
Matt Moore re-signed. Bader ended up on the Reds.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah.
4 or 5 guys. I remember it was just what are you guys doing? But most of the time, nothing happens. It's just money changes a little bit. It's because they can only do the one type. Like you said, outrighting somebody is different than irrevocable waivers, which is different than just going into the waiver system. There's all these little different rules. So they just open it up for the one. Go on waivers, either go through or you don't. And so there's a chance that most of these guys stay where they are.
But the one thing, think about the Pirates. Pirates are always looking to lose money, shed some money no matter where they're at. They're not falling below anything. What if they put Rowdy, who's not having the best year, not the year that they thought he was going to have when they signed him, great clubhouse leader, who just lost their first baseman for 6 to 8 weeks, the Royals. You think they wouldn't at least think about giving Rowdy a call, picking him up? It's not a lot of money. It wouldn't be that much for the Royals. He's played first base. I don't know what their other options are. But then on the other hand, who's behind him or who's ahead of him, behind him in the standings and ahead of him in the claims process? The Twins. Would the Twins block it knowing that the Royals need a first baseman?
Also, it's too late. It had to happen by yesterday. So now if you're doing it today, you're dipping into September. No. It's a 48-hour process. So the deadline was the deadline to waive them was Thursday, yesterday. And then it's a 48-hour process. So that gets you to Saturday. So the guys that I just listed are the only ones left. You can still waive a guy after that, but then they can only play for that month, and then they can't be on the playoff roster. That happened with 1 or 2 guys last year. I think Jorge Lopez ended up on a team last year and pitched for them for a few weeks and then wasn't eligible for the playoffs. But that could happen too. You could have Rowdy fill in for a month, A
month. I mean, that's why the Diamondbacks got Josh Bell. They're not looking at Josh Bell as a piece for the playoffs because they think Christian Walker is going to be back.
A bench bat, yeah.
Absolutely, but Christian Walker is going to be that guy. Vinny Pasquantino is going to be their guy in the playoffs if the Royals are still in it when he comes back from this broken thumb. You do need a big league first baseman to play that position. Just something that popped in my head while we were talking about it.
No, it's a good idea, especially because it's the playoffs for a team like that right now to hold off another team. All right, let's get to 5 minutes of Ask May.
What? No, it's not. Emperor's New Groove thing again. Okay, yeah, I remember that. We're talking today about Josh Hader and his fastball, which I didn't realize that I've never talked about up until the last Sunday Night Baseball. And he has a unicorn fastball that a lot of people don't understand. And I'm about to throw some big terms out there, so bear with me. But Josh Hader's fastball is considered a sinker. Now, Kratz and Todd Father, does that look like a sinker to you? Yes or no?
No.
No.
Not
So
at
he throws a 2-seam grip that rides. If it was classified as a 4-seam, it would be the highest induced vertical break, the highest vertical, the second highest in the major leagues of any. And he throws a grip that is not supposed to ride. And how he does it is by spinning the ball and making it wobble back and forth. Now, it took me a while to wrap my head around this a little bit, but what it is he uses seam shifted wake, which a lot of people are using for their changeups to get a ball to go the opposite way that it looks like it's spinning. If you guys saw a cutter and then it went the other way, that would be jarring as a hitter. And that's what seam shifted wake is doing for guys. What Josh does is create seam shifted wake that creates that same force on both sides of the ball, not just one. So basically he creates this, it's like he creates a gutter, like in bowling, and the ball stays in this air tract, which makes it carry. And there's no other pitcher in the major leagues now since 2015, since these things have been tracked, that has done anything remotely close to it. Add the fact that he throws 98, and you have Josh Hader's fastball. And that's why it's so hard to hit. It's because hitters see a sinker high, and it doesn't run at all. It stays true and is high velo, obviously. And that is how Josh Hader gets so many people out, or gets so much swing and miss on a sinker up.
Yeah.
75% of the time. And it's like Mariano Rivera's cutter. He had the most vertical break by 5 inches of anyone in history, including Kenley Jensen. Like, nobody's gotten even close with how sideways he made his go and stay up. And to this day, we're designing these pitches, and still no one can design that one either. So sometimes guys just have something about their bodies that they're able to do something other people aren't doing. And that's why Josh Hader has been who he has been for a long time. But we're just now finding out about this, and it's fascinating for my nerd brain.
Have you seen his Edgertronic film? Have you been able to have access to that, or just the numbers?
I have seen a couple of his fastballs, yes, and how he releases them. And it's funny because when the ball comes out, it's a super consistent spin, and then as it travels, it gets wobblier. Which is another thing. Like, if you're throwing a four seam, that is the last thing you want. You don't want that. You're avoiding that like the plague. Luke Barr, Daniel Bard's little brother, had like a 3,000 spin rate fastball, but his ball wobbled so much that it just killed all of that ride, all that movement. And he was trying forever to fix it. And Josh is doing it on purpose. Which
It's incredible.
This would be like, Luke, go throw a sinker. I want to see if this can carry.
So every time I faced him, which wasn't a lot of times, but I would swing and miss and be like, how did I miss that? Like, I know it's firm and I know he throws hard, and you know it's coming, and I still couldn't hit it. And I wish you would have told me this about 5 or 6 years ago. But
yeah, there's something natural.
Still probably wouldn't have hit it.
Right? You're just making a decision. You're like, I see a spin, and so I'm going to adjust my. You're doing it subconsciously, like you've done it so many times, and it just keeps being higher than you think it's going to be. Guys say like swing down on his fastball, like try to chop it down, and that's why every once in a while, like for some reason, like switch hitters that hit right-handed that have flatter swings from the right-handed side, like Marwin Gonzalez, for example. Hader struggled with him because he could flatten his swing so much, but nobody else could touch him, and nice to have an explanation now, honestly.
It is good.
Very
Jose
cool.
Martinez. Remember Jose Martinez with the Cardinals? He came up with the Royals for like a minute, crushed him. Same thing. That's what I'd always say. Guys with flat swings, this was back in 2018, guys with flat swings, just they're not fooled by it. Guys with normal swings that are like successful all the time,
Struggle.
so much struggle. They had Daniel Murphy did not want. Go look back at the. Let's see. Was it the one? It was one of the worst swings I've ever seen. I think it was game 163. He threw a fastball up and in to Daniel Murphy that he thought was going to sink or slide or something, and it almost hit him in the face. I'll never forget that. And Hader, after that pitch, goes, "Hey, brother, that ball almost hit him. I don't know what he was thinking."
Is that how he talks too, like that?
Oh yeah,
All right.
wobbly
he
fastball.
from?
Wobbly fastball.
Maryland, like
Maryland.
the hills of Maryland. If you look at Maryland, it like sticks out like over top of Virginia and towards West Virginia. In there, huge buck, man, stricken outdoors. Yee.
That Delmarva accent. Yeah.
Marva, you got that, Trevor.
Millersville, Maryland. All right, well, good stuff. That was great. And if you're on YouTube right now, you can see a little more on what Trevor's talking about with cool little TikTok-y kind of video coming up during the break here. If you're watching on Bally Sports or Bally Sports app, we'll go over our locks, our picks, a little weekend preview, and then we'll see if we have time to ask Trevor about how to get Judge or Ohtani out in a matchup.
So let me explain this. Look how this thing is spinning, right? Josh Hader has ride. He throws a riding sinker, okay? Wrap your head around that. So he throws a two-seam grip that carries. That doesn't make physical sense. So when you're trying to get ride, you throw a four-seam because when you get spin with the laces this way, it works like a
like a water wheel. When you catch air spinning this way, you can catch air underneath it. So that is what this spin does. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to pull, you're trying to get this to be as efficient as possible. It doesn't wobble like this. It just goes perfectly straight. He throws the exact opposite. So he throws a two-seam that wobbles like crazy. It's wobbling like this. Like, look, if this weren't wobbling, those two seams you see right there, they would be straight split through this axis right here. It would be split perfectly, and it would be spinning like perfectly backspun like that. But it's wobbling. So when it wobbles, it's going to be really hard to see. It's going like this. It's a supinated spin. So it's spinning like a cutter with a two-seam grip. You have the horseshoe on this side that's wobbling. Like, basically, it's going whoop, whoop. Like, the horseshoe on the side of the ball is pointing that way, 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 on both sides. So he has a horseshoe on both sides of the ball that is wobbling, creating these, like, big circles on the sides of the ball. So what he has found is the perfect spin wobble so that the pockets of air on both sides of the ball are pushing on the ball at almost the same pressure, which is keeping it straight. He's throwing it, it's wobbling a ton, everyone assumes it's going to run, and it just stays. And it's 98. Guys, I don't think I'm accurately explaining how crazy that is. If you're off a little bit, it's going to take off one way or the other. So there's something uniquely about how he releases the ball that allows him to do this, and no one else has been able to do it.
We love Todd Father, and we need help because, you know, we had a day the other day, Todd Father. It was like 2 days ago.
I saw.
Where you saw. We hit a banger. But, you know, you win some, you lose some. So we got swept last night, and now we're trying to get back on track. So money back since Todd Father hasn't been on in a minute. So we just want to remind everyone that this is real, right? That we talk money. We're not just putting out records and all that. But the record's next to it. But as you know, in the betting world, it's about what you're throwing down and what the odds are. So Todd Father's up almost 4 Gs this year. So you get to go first, Todd Father, as you've been the Don of our locks.
Here's the problem. You guys do these wacky bets, like 2 or 3. You just stick with one, and then when you get hot, then you can start maneuvering and stuff. Over, under on strikeouts, runs scored. This guy's going to get this. Kratzy, slow down, man. This is why you never win. Anyway, let me get back to what I was going to say. I'm going Orioles today, minus 1.5, 300 to win 315. It's at plus 105. They're happy to get out of LA. I know they won the first game. Now they can breathe a little bit, even though it's going to be some different air up there in Colorado. I think they're going to sweep them, and I think they're going to have an easy time doing it. And I think, what's his name? Who's starting over there? So Albert Suarez has been having a better second half here. Watch out for the Orioles winning by at least 2 runs.
I like it. Yeah, Orioles just got, lost a tough series there to the Dodgers. This should be an easier opponent. Kratz, would you like to reply to Todd Father's call out?
I mean, I'll never win, but I don't always win like you, Todd. Like, I get it. Like, we're looking at you. You're the Don. I get it. We're bound to your toes. I mean your thumbs. I mean your toes. I mean your toe thumbs. So today, in light of what Todd said, I'm going to go plus 2.5, over 2.5 hits, runs, or RBIs and RBI. So a combination of any of those 3 for Jose Ramirez. It's paying at plus 105. Jose's hitting, I think his slugging percentage against lefties is .698. So far this year, he's hitting 353. And guess what? He gets to face a lefty today. So plus 105. Jose Ramirez.
Nice. Okay, I'll go quick. Just Boston money line minus 125. I have them beating Casey Mize, who's making his first start since June 30th. It's been tough. Former number one overall pick. Nice guy. Just, going through injuries again. The ERA is not great. I think it's in the mid fours so far this year. Houck's actually struggled in the second half, but I mean, I think the stuff when I've looked is still there. I mean, maybe the game plan from the opposing side's been a little better, but bats are better on Boston's side. I think they win this battle and silence the Tigers a little bit, who are starting to make noise again, but it's getting late. So I'll just do 125 to win a hundo. Your last, Trevor. What do you got?
I am going to take the over. Padres Rays, that's Taj Bradley versus Martin Perez, 7.5 runs. So I think there's going to be more than 8 runs scored in this game. Taj has scuffled pretty mightily in his last 5. I believe he's got like an 8 in his last 5. And Martin Perez is historically a much better first half than a second half pitcher. Though the Rays have not hit much lately. I think this is a day where one or both the pitchers are going to get hit around a little bit, and feeling pretty safe about that one. But I've only been right once, so who knows?
Dude, Taj Bradley was on a freaking heater for a while, then he hit a rut the last few starts. He was fun to watch for a little bit.
He was, but we're at the most innings he's ever had now, so we're dealing with fatigue. That's just one of those things. But he's got a bright future, just maybe not today.
Yeah, I'm a fan. Long term, I'm a fan. All right, MLB Grand Slam jackpot weekend. Get after it. Place a $10 or more wager on any player to hit a homer on either a Friday, Saturday, or a Sunday affair, a game. If the player hits a Grand Slam on that day with that prop, you can win a $50,000 daily prize or a share of the prize with every other winning bettor. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And we're coming right back for the Bally Sports crowd for a little slap hands. Questions here during the break to get 2 more in. One's for Todd, one's for Trevor. Todd, Matthew wants to know what your favorite part of the Little League World Series was. Was there a moment? Was there a saying? Was there a song? Something that stood out that
I got
missing?
one. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a big watcher of infield, outfield, so it's called IO before the game. And Japan's was the most extraordinary thing I've ever seen in my life. The coach was hitting balls like every 2 seconds, another ball come in, hit, and he was hitting them as hard as he could, and guys were hitting and knocking them off their chest. They didn't, and it was all synchronized. It was crazy. They first started hitting it to the outfield. Everybody who got the ball in the outfield threw it to first base. Like, that's unheard of. Why were they doing that? I don't know. And then when they eventually threw home second, third, and then the infielders were getting balls absolutely launched at them, but at a frantic pace and screaming the whole time. It was something to watch.
That's cool. Next time you got to record that. I want to see that. I feel like that would go viral.
I have I have a little bit on it, but
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I have a little. The infield was great. I have that, so we can show that.
Yeah, send that to me and we'll show it next week.
I'll send it to Erik.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. You're the best. Trevor, if you want to do this in a minute or less because you're in Seattle, what is the pulse of Seattle fans right now? One fan was like, did they go too hard at the trade deadline and it's going to make them be cautious in the future? I'm like, they're pretty cautious already. They didn't up their payroll at a time when they had one of the best pitching staffs of the freaking century.
Yeah, no, it's not great. To be honest, there's a lot of people who are out now. At least guys who are in my wiffle ball league, which is the mid-20s. They're out. They're not happy. But I don't think this discourages them from doing anything. I don't. I just think Jerry's going to do what Jerry wants. I think we've been pretty clear about that. So we'll see what they can do for the rest of the year. I mean, it's not, they're not out of it. They can go on a run here, but it's going to take a lot. Yeah, but not. It's sunny, but not many sunny dispositions amongst Mariners fans right now.
No, and I could make the case that they had a lot more work they needed to at the deadline. There's just only so much you can do, so much that's available. That's what the off season is for. It's called the off season, Kratz. Don't we do a show every day in the off season?
Every day. Get your work in.
Yeah, but that includes, GMs or, owners when you tank for years and then it's finally your time to strike and you have one of the best starting staffs in a decade. It's usually a good time to try and get like an aircraft carrier bat. Just a suggestion. All right, we only have 1 minute. Kratz, do your thing real quick. And I'm going to ask one question at the finish line.
Oh, I
Iron
like
Pig.
that one.
Off
that's a good
jersey, Phillies got the iron going through there, doing it with a
Baby
little
blue.
pig, little pigtail coming out of the bottom.
What's on? I thought that was the Liberty Bell. What is that?
It's a Liberty Bell hanging from an iron, from
Yeah,
like a beam.
Never mind.
Iron Pig.
Never mind. No, I didn't. I liked it until the iron's on there.
I mean, that's what the Liberty Bell's hanging from.
Nah, you don't disrespect the Liberty Bell with an iron on top of it. That's
You don't
that's
even know. You live in
sacrilegious.
Jersey. You don't even know Liberty. You live in Jersey.
I give that one. I give it a D.
Do you guys know what a wampin zone is? Have you ever heard of wampin zone?
Nope.
That is the answer I expected because if you said yes, we didn't really have any time left. But I'll send you the clip yesterday from Pierzynski. He just created a new phrase from one of his old drunk hitting coaches or something like that. Wampin zone.
Real.
Look it up, kids.
Real.
You won't find anything.